Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss The Maze Runner, starring Dylan O'Brien, Kea Scaldelario, Thomas Brody Sangster, Will Poulter, and Patricia Clarkson, and directed by Wes Ball. Now, I remember this coming out in theaters, and I seen this on IMAX, and I remember it didn't do much of a difference except for maybe a couple of action sequences, and I'm probably going to plan on seeing the new one in IMAX depending on if it plays near me. So what did I think of this movie when I first saw it in theaters? Well, let's get into it. We begin the movie with Thomas, played by Dylan O'Brien from Teen Wolf, the TV show, waking up, going up to the maze area in an elevator that doesn't kill him. And the guys who've been up there for 3 years, I had to write this down, 3 years, gets him out without any memory of his name and where he came from or who he is, which was a little confusing way to open up the movie. But we'll know Thomas as the movie progresses, and what killed me from laughing was he starts to run and falls down, thinking, where the hell am I? It was a little strange for an opener of a teen action movie, or it was a book series. Let me rephrase that. We get introduced to Albie, played by Emil Amin, forgive me if I said that wrong, and the character was okay in this movie. And he shows Thomas how the maze is ran, and when he's infected later in the film, that's when I do not necessarily like him. Thomas's arc goes by a little slowly as we get to know him throughout the movie. Like I said before, Newt is played by Thomas Brody Sangster, is another character who I felt like just fine, to be exact. For character reasons. First of all, he's in charge when Albie's not around. Second of all, he seems tough. And last of all, he's so brave soul throughout the movie. And I admire that about the guy. Chuck is a character I really cared for this whole movie. And I also cared for Thomas, and the third one I'll get to later in the show. Minho, played by Ki Hong Lee, is another character who's brave and I like just fine. And he's just fine in this movie for a badass character. Gally, played by Will Poulter, is a character I really do not like, because there's something about this actor I really don't like, because I've seen him in a handful of things, such as The Revenant, or We're the Millers, or that recent Detroit movie that came out last year. And I think it's his face more than anything is why I don't necessarily think I'm a fan of his. And he also always plays evil in the movies, except for Will the Millers, where he plays a nice person. Thomas remembers his name when Gally knocks his ass down, and just like like a snap of a finger, he remembers his name like a snap of a finger. That was honestly way too convenient for me. But okay, I can go with that. I'm just gonna put it out there, guys. I may be revealing my reviews so far, but I'm gonna just say it now. This is a B movie. It's one of those movies where you can just turn off your brain and enjoy the movie for what it is, which is a popcorn entertainment at best. Minho comes back with Albie and the maze is about to close, and guess what happens when it closes? Nobody will make it out alive. And why? Because there's a monster called a griever, killing people, and nobody makes it out alive until Thomas kills one of the grievers. And Minho, and Albie, who's infected, by the way, make it out alive. That felt over the top cheeseball convenient storytelling. But again, this is a B movie. I said earlier that I cared for 3 characters, which was Chuck, Thomas, and the third one I'm going to bring up now is Teresa, played by Kea Scaldelario, the last person ever to be sent by the company called Wicked. And I reviewed Kea before in the recent Pirates of the Caribbean movie. She like Thomas and Chuck, I felt were relatable for this whole movie. There was a potion that came with Teresa, and that Thomas connected Wicked is good. And it saves Albie from the infected, and Thomas tries to put it on him, but he jumps out and scares the crap out of the audience, and suddenly Teresa, next thing you know, stabs Albie with the potion. That moment in the film made no freaking sense to me, because there's a bunch of guys that are really scared to put it on, but they're going to put it on him anyways. And here's the girl that stabs him and cures him. It's like, what is this? Chuck has the wooden necklace from his parents who he can't remember, and that was when I connected with Chuck the most. Thomas and Minho go into the maze and gets the mechanic leg from a griever Thomas killed earlier in the film. Shows them the way out of the maze, and that I felt was pretty freaking convenient, because mazes are so hard to go through. Like, they're impossible but when they run out of there, felt like a good action sequence, but I mean, it was just, mazes are hard. I'm just gonna put it out there. So the maze opens up in all spots, from north to south and east to west, and everyone is hiding from the grievers as they attack the human land. And that's when suddenly Gally loses his mind and uses Thomas and Teresa as bait for the grievers. And Thomas and Teresa aren't the only ones who escape, but Minho, Newt, Chuck, and a whole lot of others to get out of the maze. And the way Gally overreacts and wants people to stay in the maze. And I thought Will Poulter is not only a terrible villain in this movie, but a terrible actor. I'm sorry, pal, but you're not that interesting to look at on screen. We get and no offense to him, by the way. We get introduced to Dr. Ava Page, played by Patricia Clarkson, who put everyone through a hell as a game that I felt made no damn sense. Like, how could you put kids through this? Like, that's a horrible thing to do. But her character, for what little she does, is a weak character. It's a waste of Patricia Clarkson's talent. I was really sad that Gally tried to shoot Thomas, but Chuck gets hit by the bullet, and he dies. It just made me really sad, but everyone else escapes without Chuck and Gally, because Gally was stabbed by Minho's stick. Well, not stick, but like something that he can strike upon. And helicopters put Thomas and the others in a situation we'll see in the next week's movie. And I felt it was a good way to not a great way to ending for me, in my opinion. Just, I don't know. I mean, it's a sequel. It's a setting up for a sequel thing. I'll talk more about that next week. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 6.8 out of 10. This is for the final time, guys. I promise this is the last time I'm going to say it. It's a B movie, and it's got a B movie quality, but there were just a few characters to care for. Good. And a few that were just fine, but the rest weren't great. It has its good versus bad moments, but yeah, turn off your brain. Have a good time watching this movie. That's what I would recommend you do when you watch this movie. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and I will be back next week with Maze Runner: The Scorch Trials. And before I say goodbye for the week, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to subscribe, watch some more videos, and please hit the like button and write a positive comment in the bottom. And until next time, Wicked is good.